What is going on? It is Nate the Game Guy coming back with another video, and today I want to talk to you guys about a problem that I think is not talked about enough when it comes to original slash fat models of the PlayStation 2. Now, the PlayStation 2 is without a doubt one of the best consoles of all time, and unfortunately I came across this specific problem that I'm going to address sometime last year. Now, thankfully, things are resolved. However, when it comes to owning and collecting for the PlayStation 2, I think more people need to be more aware of what exactly is going on with the PlayStation 2. So, of course, in this video, I plan to talk to you guys and dive more into detail of what exactly is going on. But without further ado, let's dive right into this video subject and take a look at what exactly is going on with fat models or original models of PlayStation 2s right after the intro. So I think it's important that I give a little bit of some context and share my own personal story first to give an idea as to what exactly is going on with these fat and original models of the PlayStation 2. So essentially last year I was playing my PS2 and I forgot what game it was, but I was having a good time, enjoying myself, all that. And a week passed. I just didn't feel like playing my PS2, just other stuff going on, right? And finally, after a week, I decided to try to turn on my PS2, like the little power switch that's like on the back. And essentially, I noticed that the reset button and the eject button were not lighting up. It was just like I didn't even turn it on at all. And the console was literally not turning on after me hitting the switch and all that, right? So I essentially wondered, was it plugged in, not plugged in? I checked, unplugged it, replugged it, all that stuff. Everything else in here was turning on just fine, no power surge or whatever. So, that really made me upset and annoyed and confused. Like, hey, this thing was literally working just fine a week ago. What's the issue with this now? So that made me decide to do a little bit of some research as to what's going on with my PS2. And I learned about something that I think needs to be talked about more when it comes to those that own and collect for the PlayStation 2. So after looking into what exactly caused my PlayStation 2 to essentially stop working, right, it turns out that the fat model PS2 or the original model PS2 is essentially having their power supplies go out, right? I'm not talking about the power cable. What I'm talking about is the part inside of the PlayStation 2 that allows it to turn the console on and turn the console off. Those are what's going out. Now, it's pretty known already when it comes to collecting for the PS2, whether it's the original model or the Slim, that sometimes their lasers need to be replaced. However, I think the power supply issue needs to be talked about more, because literally they are dying on the inside. And it turns out that after so many years go by, these things are essentially going to kick the bucket. I mean, these consoles now, considering that the PS2 original model came out in 2000, and at the time of making this video, these are 25-year-old game consoles, right? They're going up there in age. So unfortunately, time is not on the side of these power supplies. And literally, like I said, once these things die, you're not turning on your PS2, right? So I think that's something that really needs to be discussed when it comes to collecting for the PS2. Again, like, there are the lasers that are talked about, but they're not talked about when it comes to the power supply about the PS2. In fact, I'm very cautious of even going out and flipping PS2s or whatever from yard sales, thrift stores, all that, is because it's like, okay, buying one of these at a great deal, it probably would be wise to buy also a power supply for this thing, because, it's essentially a ticking time bomb. So I'm sure a lot of you are probably wondering already, well, what's the solution, right? Clearly you're going to want to be able to use your PS2 again, have some of those good memories, enjoy some of those games, all that type of stuff, right? So thankfully, there is something worth talking about when it comes to this issue, when it comes to the power supply of these original models right here. Now, essentially what I had to do in order to get my PS2 up and get back and start playing games, all that stuff, right, was essentially I had to buy a brand new power supply and rip the old one out and put the new one back in, which essentially meant opening up the console, taking apart the motherboard, screwing things, unscrewing things, and throwing crap out and throwing stuff back in, right? Unfortunately, for those that really want to stick with nothing but official Sony brand parts, nothing but genuine parts, all that, the reality is with this issue, which I guarantee you you're going to face at some point or another if you are collecting, flipping, or owning a original model PS2 in any way, shape, or form, this is essentially going to be something that you are going to come across at some point. The reality is Sony does not make these parts anymore, right? They are not going to care. I mean, they've pretty much moved on to PS5. They don't give much care about their past anymore, right? So, of course, if they don't even care about some of their older IPs, why would they care about this issue, right? So, the reality is you can get replacement parts. However, they're not going to be official Sony parts, which I think for those that are really wanting to stick to nothing but 100% quality, genuine, official parts, the reality is, a lot of these consoles are dying, not just PS2, but there's just, everything is going to die at some point, right? I'm not going to go into a whole thing about that, right? But essentially the truth of the matter is, since these electronics are dying, right, the replacement parts are not going to be official replacement parts. They're going to be made by third-party manufacturers, right? Now, thankfully, as you can probably imagine, I literally fixed it, got the new parts in, all that. Of course, I will be linking a part down below where you can get a brand new power supply for your PS2 right in the description below. I'm not going to be giving a tutorial on how to fix or replace the power supply because there's already other YouTube videos out there that do just that. But literally the intention of this video is to make this issue known. And if you happen to own a PS2, you're thinking about buying a PS2, you probably want to be aware of this situation, right? It's not the end of the world. It's not an expensive part at all. Thankfully, like I said, there's a solution out there. Thankfully, too, because the PS2 is easily one of the best-selling game consoles of all time, the market is out there for replacement parts. It's not going to be as difficult to get replacement parts for something like an Atari Jaguar, right? So, thankfully, if you're a PS2 collector, you are planning to get a PS2, all that type of stuff, right? Things are in your favor. But, of course, like I said, I do think this is a problem that needs to be known. Clearly, don't be freaking out. Don't be panicking about it, right? But like I said, you should be aware about it. And, if you've had a PS2 now for a while now, or you're thinking about buying a PS2 or whatever, it probably would be wise to buy a power supply and learn how to take apart your PS2 or have somebody know how to take apart a PS2 and put the new part back in, because like I said, these things are essentially ticking time bombs. And yeah, I think you should be well aware of what is going on with some of these consoles. Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out my video. Please be sure to check out these videos here, here, and here. After all, I post a lot of content when it comes to game collecting tips, and other video game related subjects. So be sure to keep an eye out every Monday and Friday where I upload consistently, and I'll be seeing you guys next time.